Welcome everyone to episode 175 of EDH Commander Challenge. I'm your host, BT. Before we get into today's matchup, I just want to give thanks to our EDHCC club members, aka the patrons, for making all of our episodes, especially our recent championship tournament, possible. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do any of this, so thank you from the bottom of my heart and our playgroup. Also, in 2 weeks' time, I'll have a huge announcement that I've wanted to make since the start of the year. And yes, it will rock your socks off. So stay tuned. But for now, let's go check out those opening hands. First, in this corner, with an opening hand of an island, forest, command tower, coastal piracy, cyclonic rift, Spark Double, Adric and Nev Twin Casters, and his Simic-style general Zimone Quandrix Prodigy. He is our newest patron and the #1 fan of infinite combos. This is Mark. Next, in this corner, with an opening hand of a mountain, 2 islands, Arcane Signet, Cancel, Tal'Ren Sky Summoner, Storm-Killing Artist, and his Izzet-style general Veyran Voice of Duality. He is the unpredictable Jimmy. Mark on the dice will start us off, so let's begin this rematch-style card fight. For their first turns, Mark plays Command Tower, while Jimmy plays an island and casts Preordain, scrying 2 and then drawing a card. Mark plays an island into his general Zimone Quandrix Prodigy, while Jimmy plays a mountain and casts Arcane Signet. Mark plays a forest and passes. Jimmy plays an island and casts Tal'Ren Sky Summoner. But before he passes, Mark uses Zimone's effect to place an island from his hand into play tapped. For Mark's turn, he casts Shadow Spear and equips it to Zimone. Then he moves into combat and attacks Jimmy with Zimone for 2 damage. Mark also gains 2 life before passing. Jimmy moves right into combat for his turn and attacks with Tal'Ren for 2 damage and passes. For Mark's turn, he casts Coastal Piracy, but Jimmy casts Mana Leak to counter it since Mark can't pay the additional mana. This also triggers Tal'Ren, giving Jimmy his first 2/2 Drake token. Mark then moves into combat and attacks with Zimone. Jimmy blocks with his Drake that dies, and Mark gains 2 life before he passes. Jimmy plays a mountain and casts Rousing Refrain, gaining 5 red mana equal to the number of cards in Mark's hand. Then the spell is suspended with 3 counters on it, and Jimmy gains another Drake token. With the mana he gained, Jimmy casts Storm-Killing Artist and passes. Mark plays an island and casts Arcane Signet and passes. For Jimmy's turn, he starts by removing a counter from his refrain during his upkeep. Then he casts one of his favorite cards in the game, Wavebreak Hippocamp. Then he moves into combat and attacks Mark with his Drake token for 2 damage, before passing. During the end step, Mark uses Zimone's other effect to draw a card. Mark starts his turn by casting Soul Ring, followed by Mana Reflection, doubling his mana, before passing. During his upkeep, Jimmy simply removes a time counter from his refrain and passes. Mark draws and tells Jimmy, well, 2 can play that game, and also passes without doing anything. What is going on here? During the end step, Jimmy says that's fine and casts Psychic Spiral. This shuffles the 2 cards in his graveyard back into his deck, and this forces Mark to mill 2 cards. Jimmy also starts his value train here, gaining a Drake from Talrand, a treasure token from his artist, and a free draw from his Hippocamp. However, after that, Mark casts Capsize with Buyback to bounce the artist back to Jimmy's hand. During Jimmy's upkeep, he removes the last counter from the refrain and casts the spell once more, gaining 5 more red mana from it before it's suspended with 3 more time counters on it. But he does forget to make a Drake token via Talrand here. During his main phase, he uses the mana to recast the artist. Then he moves into combat and attacks Mark with 2 Drakes for 4 damage, and passes. During the end step, Mark uses Zimone's effect to draw a card, and once again recasts Capsize with Buyback to bounce the artist again. But Jimmy casts Rewind to counter the spell and untap his lands. This also nets him another Drake token and a treasure token. Mark plays an island and casts Adric and Nev, Twin Casters. Jimmy stops this as well with the OG counterspell. His value train then happens, gaining a treasure, a Drake token, and a free draw. Mark then casts Saheeli's Artistry, looking to make copies of Soul Ring and the Storm-Killing Artist. But Jimmy has yet another counterspell ready, sacking a treasure to help cast Cancel. Jimmy regains the treasure he just sacked and another Drake token. Mark then says it's time to relive the last game they played together and casts Cyclonic Rift with Overload, looking to bounce all of Jimmy's non-land permanents. Jimmy responds by delving away his graveyard and sacking his treasure token to cast Dig Through Time. This grants him a Drake and another treasure. He then checks his top 8 cards and adds 2 of them to his hand. Then the rift finally resolves, and Jimmy's non-land permanents vanish in a flash of light. Then Mark moves into combat and attacks Jimmy with Zimone for 2 damage. Mark also gains 2 life, and finally ends his turn. During Jimmy's upkeep, he removes a counter from his refrain. Then he plays an island and recasts both his Signet and Talrand before passing. For Mark's turn, he casts Lithoform Engine and passes. During Jimmy's upkeep, he removes a counter from his refrain. Then he plays a tapped Myriad Landscape and casts Part the Water Veil, gaining an extra turn and a Drake token via his Talrand, and passes. In his extra turn, he removes the last counter from his refrain and recasts it again, this time only gaining 2 red mana. Then the card is once again put into suspend with 3 counters on it. Then he casts his general, Veyran. Then he passes. During the end step, Mark uses Zimone's effect to draw a card and copies the effect via his engine. Mark starts his turn by playing Nykthos Shrine to Nyx and casts Scavenging Ooze. before passing. During the end step, Jimmy sacks his landscape to grab some mountains from his deck into play tapped. During his upkeep, Jimmy removes a counter from his refrain. Then he plays a mountain and recasts both his Storm Killing Artist and Wavebreak Hippocarp. Then he moves into combat and attacks Mark with his Drake for 2 damage, and passes. During the end step, once again, Mark uses Zimone and his engine in tandem to draw 2 cards. Mark plays Ancient Tomb and casts Replication Technique on his Mana Reflection, looking to quadruple his mana sources. But Jimmy casts Arcane Denial and counters the spell. In response, however, Mark uses his engine to copy the technique instead. Thus, Mark gets a copy of Mana Reflection regardless, the original technique is countered, and thanks to Jimmy's General, all of his triggers happen twice. So he gains 2 Drake tokens, 2 treasures, and 2 free draws. Then Mark ends his turn. During Jimmy's upkeep, he removes a counter from his refrain. Also, his Arcane Denial's second effect happens, allowing Jimmy to draw a card and Mark to draw 2. Jimmy then plays a tapped Boseiju who shelters all and casts Fireball with the intent of dealing 3 damage to Zimone and 2 to the Ooze. This also gains him 2 more Drakes, 2 more treasures, and gives Veyran a nice +2/+2 boost. In response, Mark uses his Ooze to remove his own Thrasios Engrave to save it. He also removes Jimmy's Arcane Denial. The Ooze gets a +1/+1 counter, and Mark gains a life. Also, he uses Zimone's effect to draw 2 cards, as he now has at least 8 lands in play. Then Fireball resolves, and Zimone dies. Then Jimmy sacks 3 treasures to help cast Inspiring Refrain. This lets him draw 2 cards, and thanks to his General and Talrand/Artist triggers, he gains another 2 Drakes and 2 treasures. Then the refrain is also suspended with 3 counters. Then Jimmy sacks 2 treasures to help cast Comet Storm, where X is 1 to finish off the Ooze. After the Ooze takes the damage and dies, Jimmy gains back 2 treasures and 2 more Drakes, and further strengthens his General as well with an additional +2/+2. Then he moves into combat and attacks Mark with 5 Drakes and his General for a grand total of 16 damage before finally passing the turn. Mark plays a Forest, and at this point has so much mana he has to grab dice to be able to keep track. He then casts Doubling Season, followed by Eternal Witness, to which he holds priority in order to have his engine copy his Eternal Witness, which thanks to Doubling Season makes 2 copies instead, thus granting him 3 cards total back from his graveyard to his hand. He chooses Replication Technique, Adrix and Nev, and Capsize. Next, he recasts Adrix and Nev, which in combination with Doubling Season makes 4 times the tokens. Then he recasts Replication Technique, targeting Mana Reflection, which would give him 4 more copies of said card. And now, with some math, which I hope someone in the comments can confirm, with 6 copies of Mana Reflection in play, the stacked effects would multiply each of Mark's mana sources by 64 times its original value. Meaning one island on Mark's field now taps for 64 mana. With Jimmy being out of counterspells and Mark having access to Capsize, he can bounce Jimmy's whole board and keep it gone forever. Need I say more? No. Jimmy scoops here, and Mark is your winner. And he's also very, very evil and scary. Jimmy played his heart out, and like last time when he fought Mark, his value train strategy was very good. He got a lot of extra draw power, creature tokens, and treasures. I really like the Stormkilling Artist. It could really be a staple in any 2-color deck that runs red, and also has a ton of instants and sorceries to be used. Once again, however, Mark outplayed Jimmy. It was like watching Vegeta versus Android 18 from Dragon Ball Z. Mark was much like 18, using a strategy with a decent balance of offense and defense, with a seemingly unlimited set of stamina, just taking his time and methodically wearing down the powerful Vegeta-like strategy that Jimmy was using until he was ripe for the picking. I found Mark's Little Form Engine to be the most interesting card, as he could maximize the usefulness of his spells and essentially had a way around Jimmy's counterspells. Agree with our picks? Let us know in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoy our content, consider becoming a patron. We give you access to such things as entering our future tournaments, bonus entries into our giveaways, your nickname is part of our EDHCC club, and so much more. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay warm, stay safe, and keep on card gaming. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you're a fan of EDH gameplay and you like whether it be 1v1 or multiplayer and you want to be part of the ever-growing Commander Challenge family, just make sure you smash the subscribe button and notification bell down below. We do weekly videos. Don't forget as well to like, comment, share our videos, but most importantly, enjoy them. On behalf of all of our members here, I'm your host, BT. Feel free to check out all of the videos in the channel, join our game, it's now your turn. Cheers!